How's it going, people in the chat? I was used to having my brony be the first one always to say first. But for some reason, my brony decided to start his own stream. And I'm like, capitalism, bleh. Competition, bad. And now I understand the socialist point of view, because if I was in charge and if I was the only stream on YouTube, then it would be quite beneficial. So all of a sudden, I'm starting to understand, like, this is how socialists need to sell their ideology. It's like, we're going to take people's shit away. And everyone is like, well, you're taking my shit. That's horrible. So that's not a good way of selling the ideology. The ideology should be sold like, we're going to take everyone's shit away and give it to you. And then everyone is going to be a socialist. Like, I guarantee to you. You sell it like that, think about it this way. It's going to be a horrible, oppressive system, but you can be in that 1%. You can be in the part of the system that benefits, and then everyone is going to become a commie. That's how I would sell the ideology. Like, put me in charge of the PR. If any person that is on the leftist side of politics, if you want me, I can do PR for you. Fluffy the unicorn, don't take my shit. No, we're not going to take your shit. We're going to give everyone shit to you. This is why we need to support socialism. You can be that guy. You can be the one that owns all the shit. Did you hear that some of Jim's cronies are claiming that Sargon is working with the Mossad agent to get Jim's docs? No, I haven't been involved in the drama for a while, and I am quite happy the way things are. I don't know what people are saying. I genuinely don't care. If they say something about me that I feel the need to debunk because it is something that I would like to address, I will address it. Otherwise, I'm trying to detach myself from the drama because the Christmas spirit is coming. The Christmas spirit. And this Christmas, I'm going to be alone. All alone because my parents are going away to visit my cousin. Who is now in Spain, and I can't leave with my parents because I'm renovating the apartment. So I still need to be here in order to supervise the renovations. I'm going to try to make some arrangement to buy floor tiles, and I need to be here in order to also make money so I can pay for the renovations. So I'm going to be alone this Christmas. It's a choice, not that I'm forced to be alone. I had Sarah, the British lady, offering to fly me over to Britain, but I said no. I politely rejected. And you're going to have me this Christmas, okay? So when you're going to be at home and you're going to have that family dinner, you can have an earpiece in your ear and hear my screechy voice as I am making Christmas more sufferable. I find Christmas to be incredibly unsufferable, by the way. Maybe it's because I am getting old. New Year's is even worse, in my opinion. The fact that you have to spend time is what makes me go, ugh. I really don't like the scheduled time. It's like, this is the day of the year where you have to do it. It's like, well, what if I don't feel like doing it? No, you have to do it. And me being an introverted person, I'm like, man. The only cool thing about the Christmas is the gift giving, because you actually, you have to plan and you have to give something. I love giving shit to people, not actual shit, but things that they might want. I like the gift giving, but personally, I just don't like the fact that you gotta be there. I hate the fact that all the restaurants are closed. You can't order anything on Christmas. Horrible. Yeah, you see, apparently the sentiment is being echoed in the chat. The worst thing about Christmas is the Christmas tree. If you have cats, like they want to climb on it, they want to play with it, the lights, the stuff, and horrible, absolutely horrible. But I also dislike the whole idea of a Christmas tree. To be honest, it's like you're killing a tree. I know it sounds like bourgeois. It's like, why do you care about trees? Like. It is a living thing. It's a creature, and you don't really need to kill it. Like, I'm not against killing a tree in order to make furniture, right? Like that serves a purpose. But you're killing a tree to have it for 1 week in your house, and then you're getting rid of it. That is senseless to me. I'm not going to do activism to protect trees everywhere. But personally, I don't want to do it. I'm going to get one of those synthetic shit. Like one of those things that looks like a tree but is not a tree. A fake tree, yeah. Someone says it's planted to be cut. Yeah, no, I get the whole thing, but it's still a living thing. You're killing a living creature, and I'm not against killing living creatures, by the way, if they serve a purpose. If the creature is a pest, for example, like flies, mosquitoes, yeah, I understand it. A spider that invades my private sanctum. I find a spider in my house. I'm going to murder it. That is the thing that I'm going to do. I will commit murder upon the spider. Killing for food. I'm even willing to kill for, like killing animals to get fur and make clothing. Like all of these things, I understand the reason for it. But when it comes to just, like, okay, let's kill a tree. Why? To keep it in the house for 1 week and then throw it away. You can do that. I'm not against it. But I personally don't want to do it. It serves a purpose, people's enjoyment. Well, if that's the case, dog fights also serves for people's enjoyment. Rooster fights. I did a rooster fight when I was a kid. Did I tell you guys the story? The one where I did the rooster fight? I think I was like 6 years old or some shit. And I was at my grandparents' house. They lived in the village, a rural place. And every day I would see my rooster go to the fence and go like the cockadoodle to the neighbor's rooster, And I thought that my rooster was sad because he wants to play with the neighbor's rooster. That's what I believe. So what I did is like I threw the rooster over the fence into the neighbor's backyard. And I thought they were playing, but apparently they weren't playing. I have to say, my rooster was owning the shit on the neighbor's rooster. Like, my rooster was winning. But then the neighbor came in, called me the devil's child. Apparently the neighbor only had one rooster. And didn't afford to lose it. So, they spoke with my grandparents. They were very upset. And they were angry at me, and I don't know what the fuck I did. I was like, 6, 7 years old? And like, I wasn't understanding what exactly did I do wrong. But my at least my cock won. And over the years, as I remember it, I now understand what I did wrong. But yeah, my one definitely. There was another funny story when I ended getting that rooster to fall in the well. I poisoned the chickens. Again, like I was also like 5 or 6 years old, and my grandma didn't lock the booze. Like she wouldn't place the booze somewhere where I couldn't reach it. And in Romania they make some really nice moonshine in the countryside, and the reason they would leave it out in the open, like on the table, for example, is because they knew that I wouldn't drink it. And the answer is that, I wouldn't drink it. Like, I never drank alcohol. I was a good boy. I didn't do nothing. Like, if I was told not to drink this alcohol, I wouldn't drink the alcohol, right? But they never told me I couldn't put the alcohol in the chicken's water, in the chicken's tray. So I actually took the alcohol, and I thought that since it's celebration, since it's the season to be jolly, I would help the chickens be a little jolly as well. So again, like I was 6 or 7, and I poured some of some of the drink into the chicken's tray so that the chickens can celebrate. Apparently they didn't die, but they were very wobbly. They were very let's say that the chickens were walking on 2 paths. It's like, the fuck is wrong with you, V? I was 6 or 7. That's what the fuck was wrong with me. Like kids these days. Well, actually kids those days. And the chickens were drunk. And I see the rooster going up on the well, and it was wobbly, like moving left and right, and then bonk in the well. Apparently, my grandparents weren't that upset because they were planning to cut the rooster that day, right? But it was very difficult to fish it out with the bucket. I feel terrible about it, but again, I was a kid back then. I was just a child, and no one told me that I'm not allowed to do these things, so I blame my grandparents wholeheartedly. My cousin did this to her cat, LOL. Awesome story. Like I recently found out that I wasn't the only one that poisoned the chickens this way. Like almost every kid who lived in a rural village, for some reason, at one point took alcohol and put it into the chickens' tray, where the chickens are supposed to drink water from. But yeah, I didn't expect one of them to actually fall in the well, and I was watching it from the house, because it was cold outside, and I see the chicken just walking around the well, and then. So right, a lot of interesting things happened. My cousin did this to her cat. Never, don't give alcohol to your cats. By the way, just the cat's liver cannot tolerate alcohol. It's like giving alcohol to a baby. Okay, just don't. Unless you're underage, and if you have kids, tell them not to do it. The chicken slayer, yeah. So okay, this is something that happened, and it pissed me off. Now, people know that I love animals. Like I do have compassion. Like if I see an animal in pain, I want to take it to the vet. I'll offer money and stuff. And recently, I got people trying to take advantage of my kindness, and I don't like people taking advantage of me. So there's this chick, this girl, with ample bosoms. She's got really nice bosoms, and this is why I was hanging out with her. And eventually I stopped hanging out with her because she became crazy. She became insane. I think she's got like 7 or 8 cats in her house right now, and she lives alone in 1-room apartment. Okay. So you can understand, like 1-room apartment, 7, 8 cats, and I tried to explain her. Listen, woman, the cats are not designed. They're not herd animals. You understand? They're not like cows. They're not supposed to live together in a pack. They need space. But no, if she finds a single solitary cat outside, she will take it in, regardless if the cat is sick or not. And I constantly explain, it's like, do you understand that this is also a health hazard for other cats? Like you're supposed, when you take an animal from the outside, when you take it from the streets, you're supposed to quarantine it for a couple of weeks before introducing it to general population. If you really want to run a cat prison, when you introduce a new cat to the gen pop, you need to put it in solitary and quarantine it for a week. Anyway, like my words are on deaf ears. How old is she? I think she's like 24 or 23 or something. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is that she also became a vegan. She's all with the animals, and she's very invested in making activism for animals. Yeah, she became obnoxious, and I stopped hanging out with her. Now, she called me yesterday to tell me that she has found 2 dogs and tried to guilt trip me into having these dogs in my house. And like my first question is like, what is wrong with the animals? Okay, because if they need veterinarian care, I can give you a couple of dollars so you can take them to the vet. No, the dogs are healthy, but it's cold outside, and I don't want them outside. Like, I took them in because it's warm inside. So I'm looking at her in disbelief, like I'm a little bewildered. Right? Like, do you understand that dogs do survive the winter? Like, after we get the blue frost, or the white frost, as we call it here in Eastern Europe, you still have dogs on the streets. Alright, because if that wasn't the case, you would have winter, and then the dog population would be reduced to 0. But since we do have dogs, it's clear, like objectively, we can. No, that was not. Now I explained to her. It's like, look, I can't have my cats here in my apartment because I'm in a communist apartment. The walls have ears. Every single sound bothers the neighbors. And not only that, it's like 1 room. Like it's very small. If I jump from one corner of the room, I reach the next. Okay, there is no way I can have animals in here, even if I wanted to, which I don't, because I don't like dogs. But assuming that I wanted to, Like, and then she started guilt tripping me. It's like, oh, I'm so sorry I asked. Oh, I'll never ask again. And I'm like, oh, please never ask again. Yeah, please don't. Just stop it. How big is the boobs? These sized boobs, okay? These sized tits. Now, when I was going with her, not only did she have these sized tits, um, and because she was a vegan, she was like bleach white type of skin, which is something that I really find attractive. I love ghost girls, you know, the chicks that look like Wednesday from the Addams Family, you know, the ones that look like they got anemia. For some reason, I find that sexy. You know, like the whiter the skin, the sexier. I don't know what's wrong with me, but it is a thing. And I think it's because she was a vegan. She was actually probably anemic, but like she was so white, like she was so bleach white that if she went to the beach and took off her clothing, you would hear people crying in terror, saying the beacons are lit, Ganders need aid. You know, like. But yeah, so not only did she have big tits, she was also white of skin, like milkish white. She also had an hourglass figure. And for some reason, this allowed me to stay with the madness for a lot longer than I would have normally did. However, you can imagine how crazy she has gotten that even her looks weren't enough to keep me in chains. And I decided to cut off the relationship. And now she's fat. Okay, so now that I'm looking at it, it's that not only is she like that, she's also fat. She stopped being a vegan, which is something that I constantly told her. Like eventually, she did went to a doctor and did some blood works and noticed that she's got heart problems now, apparently, because anemia bad. So yeah, she's not even ghostish white anymore. She's not Casper, the spooky ghost. And it's like, okay, right, having dogs in my house. Any self-mutilating scars? No. But she is going on groups, like Facebook groups. There is this Facebook group called Adoption Cute Animals Yash. Yash is my town. And they have this fetish. I think it's a fetish to castrate cats. Whenever they see a cat, the first thing they want to do is castrate it. Like they look at the animal and they think these balls shouldn't exist. Now, I understand the sentiment if you live in the United States, where cats are taken to the shelter and they're gassed if no one wants to take them. I don't think they gas them anymore. I think they do a little injection. But anyway. So I understand the sentiment there, right? Because eventually they get caught and they get killed. In my country, no one cares about the catastrophe, right? The catastrophe. Because they don't kill. They're allowed to run wild on the streets. So why would you, like, they don't bother you? Why do you want to castrate it? I don't know. But anyway, they want to castrate cats. That's fine. You know, and then you find that, okay, there was a cat without a tail. It was getting infected. I think it had a gangrene, like necrosis. The cat would have got into sepsis. So I said, you know, like I go in this Facebook group and I ask someone that has more time than me to actually go catch this cat, and I will give them money for the vet. And they charge me for castration, and I try to explain to it. It's like, do you understand that this cat is suffering already from a pre-existing trauma that is life-threatening? And you want to add an additional surgery? Why? Why do you want to traumatize the animal even further? Anyway, just so you can understand. Now, this is like fine, but they also want to castrate pregnant cats. Now, castrating a pregnant cat means that they take away the kittens and they put them to death. And it's like healthy cats, just absolutely healthy cats. And I'm wondering, like, okay, so what is the difference between you and someone that just wants to poison the animals? Like, and the moment that I decided to just move away from that group and never interact with them ever again is when they actually took I think it was like a Siamese or a Burmese cat from a guy that I actually know, and the guy had the pregnant cat in his backyard. They adopted the cat. They took the cat from the backyard, they castrated it, they killed the kittens, and then put it back into the guy's yard. And I told her, like, look, if you did that to my cat, I would sue the living fuck out of you. Like, I would just waste my time in the courtrooms for the jiggles. That's not even funny, you know? Yeah, that's when I decided, okay, these people are completely insane. $47.90 from Brian Wish. Ivy with the poisoning the chicks with booze to celebrate resemble either some Cosbian technique or an early stage of unconscious hatred for thoughts. Awesome story. I actually feel bad about that story. Just so we're on the same page. I don't like the fact that I did that, but I was a kid that I was stupid, and none of my grandparents explained to me that alcohol is for humans, not for animals. It's called sterilization. Yeah, okay. By the way, the reason they killed the little kittens, because I asked, it's like, why do you want to kill the little kittens? Because life is painful and unfair, and it's better that they die when they don't feel a thing than have a car run over them. What type of discussion can you have with these people? And I'm like, that's their limit. That is where the neuron begins and where the neuron ends. And there's not another neuron to make a synapse. It's just 100 seconds, like Swedish kroner. Dr. V, our adult cat, keeps running away for sometimes weeks at the same time. She comes back for a day or two, but she is off again. What should I do? Okay, so if this is the case, it's quite possible, and this is something that we know it exists. The cat is cheating on you, mate. I'm not even joking. Like, the cat is cheating on you. What cats do occasionally, they can have 2 or 3 owners, and the owners don't know about it. So if it's weeks, your cat is actually running away from home and going to someone else's house. It's probably that it has like 3 or 4 owners that is just, switching and making the rounds. What you want to do is depends. Okay, now, one way to figure it out is to put a camera on the cat's collar. You can actually do this, and you can monitor it and see what the cat is doing when it's running away. You can also put like a medallion on the cat's neck and say, when found, please return to. But the thing is, like, it's highly probable that the other owners already think that the cat is theirs, and they're going to say, no, this is my cat, not yours. Yeah, as Willem says, you've been cat-cucked. Cats usually like a place to sleep, if it's safe, warm, right? And they also like to get fed. So if a cat is leaving and is not coming back for weeks, then chances are that it's going to someone else. And the main problem is that if someone else thinks that it's their cat, they might lock it indoors and you will never see it again. So you should actually fix this problem as soon as possible. My solution would also be to lock the cat indoors. Like if you have a house or something, right? Just stop letting the cat go out and you fix the issue. But just put the camera and see where it goes. I prefer not to let my cats walk out, by the way, simply because they can get parasites and they can get toxoplasmosis is a disease that cats have, which they get it by getting in contact with a parasite, Toxoplasma gondii. And this parasite is very dangerous, especially for pregnant women and young children. So this is just one of many things. Like, it can also be bitten by a tick. Now, ticks give Lyme disease to humans, but I think they give something else to cats. So, I prefer if I have an animal that I have like a big house, big for Romanian standards, an apartment building with 3 additional rooms. And that's more than enough. And I have 2 cats, they're happy with each other, they're playing with each other, I also play with them. The best thing you want to do if you really, really want to get the cat outside, teach it how to walk on a leash. You can do that with cats. Now, for cats, you don't buy a leash because the cat will strangulate itself. You buy a harness. And they're specially designed for cats. They go around their legs and on the back. If you want, you can DM me. I will teach you how to teach your cat how to go on a leash, and then you just take the cat for a walk. It is entirely possible and entirely safe. And depending on the cat you have, you might have a cat that wants to climb trees. Don't let it do that, because then you're going to end up strangulating it. Or you may have a cat that wants to go in the bushes. And if it wants to go in the bushes, don't let it do that, because it's going to come out as dirty. And unlike a dog, the cat is always going to walk in front of you. All right, now understand that you have a cat, not a dog. Let it walk in front of you, and it's going to be fine. Cats should never walk outside. They kill the birds and other native species. Well, there is this thing called the trophic chain, and every species has a predator and a prey. So yeah, the birds also have to be thinned in the number of population. The birds eat the mice, the birds eat the insects, and the cats eat the birds. It's nature. Can I put a cat on a leash? Yes, you can. It depends on the type of breed you got, but most cats, from what I know, unless it's retarded, know how to walk on a leash. What you want to do is you first put the harness on the cat. The cat is going to think you're trying to kill it. It's going to walk funny for a couple of hours. It's going to be incredibly stressed. But after a day or so where you leave the harness on the cat, it's going to feel natural about it. It's going to feel that it's not a problem anymore. And then you attach the leash to the harness and you start walking around in the house with it. And then when the cat is comfortable, you can take it outside and you can actually walk with the cat on a leash. Let me see if I can actually find a picture of it so you can see how it's done. There we go. All right, hold on. This is one of my favorite breeds of cats. It's the Savannah. And as you can see here, hold on, let's go to... there you go. You can definitely walk the cat on a leash. There are breeds that are better suited for being walked. For example, Bengals and Savannahs as well. Savannah is actually a really cool cat because it's very big. The Yashira is even bigger. And I don't think anyone wants to fuck with you if you walk with one of these things on the street. They're very dog-like in nature. I think they would. You can actually train them to attack people that try to fuck with you. Yeah, no, it's definitely possible to, and you can do it with smaller cats as well. So it's not that you need a specific breed, but it's a lot easier. Okay, so this is something that you should never allow the cat to do. If you see that it's trying to climb a tree, you should definitely stop it, because you can strangulate it with this thing. So there we go. Yeah, you can definitely do that. That is not a pet cat. Yeah, it is. Willem for $2 says, do you have to leave the leash on all the time? Only until the cat gets used to it. Cats don't like to feel anything touching them. And they feel very uncomfortable when they feel something on their back. So when you train the cat, you put the leash on and you leave it for 1 or 2 days, and the cat is going to try to tug it, pull it out. It's eventually going to see that it can't, and it's going to get used to it. Let me show you like normal cat, because people say that the Savannah is too big for their tastes. Here we go. Let's show you this video. There you go, like normal house cat. Oh my god. Okay. Yeah, so you can definitely do it with any cat. By the way, never walk your dog like this. This is a bad way of walking your dog. The dog should never be in front of you. Right now, the dog is dominating this person. You should always be in front of the dog or next to the dog. Never allow the dog to run in front of you. Well, what you do is when the dog goes in front of you, you just stop. you stop moving, and you call the dog back. And when the dog comes back to your sides, you move. You need to act like the alpha of the dog pack. These things don't seem to be that important, but if you have a dog that thinks you are its bitch, you're going to have a lot of problems with it. The dog is not going to respect you. It's going to bark, possibly in worst case scenario, even bite you. Like you want to assert dominance with the dog. You want the dog to respect you and look up to you as if you're the alpha. You don't want the other way around. Okay, dogs. This doesn't work with cats. This is just particularly for dogs. And if you manage to do that properly with little things like the way you go for a walk and when you feed it, for example, when you give the dog food, the dog is supposed to be quiet and wait for the food, not get on you and go like none of that shit. If you actually manage to do that, you're going to have a very well behaved and well trained dog that's going to be a pleasure for other guests who come into your house to interact with it. If you're going to have like a dog that you allow it to do anything, it's going to bark at guests, it's going to attack guests, it's going to be disrespectful towards you, and you don't want that. Anyway, dominate the lobster hierarchy, yeah. Sure, he will bite you. Maybe that's the reason why someone get these tiny dump dogs, because a wolf is something different. No, you can train a wolf. You just need to understand the species and be a lot more patient when it comes to training wolves. But I think I could train a wolf. The number one thing when working with an animal, any type of animal, is to number one know the psychology of the animal, and number two is to know the body language of the animal. Like all animals have body languages, and they're very open about what they want and what they don't want. And if you don't respect the animal, like it's telling you that it doesn't want to interact with you, and you force the interaction, it's going to bite you. It's going to be aggressive, or it's going to be frightened. So you need to know these things, and you need to have a lot of patience. For example, when working with these animals that are incredibly annoying, I can't stand them. A lot of people say they like them, but what are they called? They're like a wiener, like really really long animals. Badgers, I think. Let me check to see if it's like. I know the Romanian one. It's called Nevastuica, but I think it's called differently. No, it's not a badger. They smell really bad as well. Let me just. I'll find it in a bit. Hold on. Yeah. Okay. So these things. I'll put them on the screen. Okay. These things. I don't know what they're called in English, but yeah, like this. This is the one. So the thing is, like, a lot of people like them as pets because they're something between a cat and a dog. They smell horrible, and even before buying it, usually they need to perform surgery on the animal to remove the scent glands from its ass. I don't like it. I mean, it's not that I don't like the animal itself. I don't like it as a pet. But I know how to train it, and the thing is, like, a lot of people don't know, like, when it bites you, for example, like when the animal is small and tiny, it wants to play, so it's going to bite. Now, a lot of people do what they would do when a cat bites you, which is to tug your hand away. But with this animal, it doesn't work, because if you try to tug your hand away, it actually considers you prey, and it's going to bite harder, it's going to encourage the biting process. Other people get frustrated and hit the animal. Never do that. You know, they try to spank the animal or something, which again causes aggression in the animal. What you need to do, for example, is to just hold your hand, just stop moving your hand. Okay, go through the bite, just suffer the bite, and the animal gets bored and it will release. And after that, you stop playing with it. Like after it bit you, you put it away and you ignore it. And you keep doing that, right? So this is like a way that you need to understand the psychology of the species. That is not like a cat. Like if a kitten bites you, you pull your hand away because you can do that, and then you ignore the cat. You stop giving it attention. Same with the dogs. But with this type of animal, no. If you try to pull your hand away, it's going to bite harder, and it's actually going to think it's fun. It's a fun activity for it. It thinks that it's like a prey and needs to bite even harder next time. So yeah. A ferret. Yeah, that's the name. Jesus fuck. That's a ferret. T-Ren for 100 Nokians. I looked after my uncle's Bengal. It would walk around things in order to pull the harness off. It almost made it when running around the wheel of my car. Ended up with a deep gash in my hand. Bengals are some of the most smartest cats in the world. The problem with them is that they use their intelligence for their interest rather than your interest. So you don't really want a smart cat because you're going to get a cat that knows how to fuck with you rather than wanting to obey you. And you get the problem that this gentleman experienced. Like, you put a harness on the cat, and now the cat is going to think of ways on how to remove the harness, which is to walk around objects and stuff. And eventually it can get a gash or something like that, so. Anyway, I don't want to talk about cats all day. Jesus. What are you guys doing? Giving me super chats, making me talk about the cats when there is so many interesting things to talk about. Let's see. I got a couple of news that I managed to save. So apparently you got this article, which is very interesting. 1 in 6 people think that Santa Claus should be gender neutral. As far as most people are concerned, Santa has always been a man with a round belly and a white beard. He has often been known as Saint Nicholas, Kris Kringle and Farba. So, when you read this article, what I read is that 5 in 6 people think that Santa Claus should be a man. But notice how they change the wording. They make it sound as if it's a big thing when it's not. No, like 5 in 6 people think that 1 in 6 are insane. And here's the thing about it, right? You can raise your kids any way you want to. You can tell your kids that Santa is black. Now, I don't have anything against the black Santa Claus necessarily, and I'll tell you why. I know a lot of people are upset, but I'll explain to you. Like, if you have a family, right, and you want the father to play Santa Claus, for your kids and make your kids happy, and the father disguises himself in Santa Claus and shit like that. Like, if you're a black family, you can't do that. If you're a black dad, right? Whatever, whatever you teach your kids, you're free to do it, as long as it's not child abuse. But this isn't about teaching your kids. This is about enforcing their gender neutral shit onto the general population. Like, no, you have to teach your child that Santa is gender neutral, so that my kid doesn't cry when he goes to school and your kid tells him that Santa is white and is a man. So this is what it's about, right? It's like a minority of people want to force the majority to conform to their ideology. Because here's the thing, like, what ideology in the world believes in gender neutral things? There's only one. I don't think there are more than one single ideology that I can think of that believes in this thing of gender neutrality. It's just intersectional feminism. I don't know of anyone else that believes in this. And if you want me to prove to you that gender neutral things don't exist, they got the pronouns like zir and her. How do you translate her into Chinese? Huh? What does her translate into Romanian? They don't have equivalent in these languages. Because if it was a real thing, they should have equivalent in all the other languages, like 2 + 2 = 4 all around the world, because that is the truth. But when you talk about like gender neutral pronouns like her, zir, ksir, like what are the translations for them in any other part of the world? Huh? How did the Africans with the clicky language translate her? So that's my opinion on it. Kamrad or Tovarish. Actually, that does have translations. Like Tovarish means friend. Comrade means brother. Brother in arms, in a way. That is kind of the interpretation. Zer in Romanian is faggot, right? Uh, I do not want to comment on that. That is very hateful, Mr. Igor Bondar. I completely disavow. You'll be using the English words like Arabs with cars. I don't understand the reference. Easy V. Click, 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 clack equals Crispus. I like the clicky languages. They're some of the oldest languages on Earth. And it's very interesting to know that this is at one point how our ancestors also spoke like. And it's interesting, like, why clicks? And why did we move away from clicks? It's quite interesting, right? Because if you go on a European language, you will find words that come from different cultures. So it's really interesting to notice how a language that maintained its purity, like one of these isolated people that live in Africa and they still have the clicky languages, it's really interesting to see how people used to speak back then, you know? The purest form of cancer for 10 Californianas. Do you know about the official podcast? If not, check it out. I think they should have you on. I don't know about the official podcast. You can't shout a click. Wow, that's... Holy shit, that is so enlightening. Jovgan Trondensen is basically pointing out a problem with clicky languages. You cannot shout a click. I think you can do a louder... Let me show you something else that's cool. Check this out. Like another problem with these ancient languages.
Wow, that's good. So, where are you from?
Where are from?
Yes.
I'm from Edo State.
Edo State. Okay, interesting. So, what is your name?
My name?
Yes, your name.
My name is Osas.
Pardon? Come again. I mean, what is your name? Your name. How far?
Now my name I call for you now.
Tell it again. Spell them.
I don't know if you spell them.
That be your name. I don't know if you spell them.
If you not say we no go school now. If you help me spell them.
Okay. I come again. I help you spell them. Jesus. How would they spell that for you?
Where
was that from?
It's very simple now.
Where was that from?
Why they cry now?
Call him again.
I know they make you cry.
Call him again.
How many times I will call the name for you?
Like, huh? Am I doing it properly? Now, here's the thing. A lot of Europeans used to do this as well. I think I think Muslims used to do it. And just like the Ottoman Empire, and to some extent, if I'm not mistaken, other European cultures. So what you would do is that they would add the father's name to your original name. So if your father is Bob, and your name would be John, you would be Bob John, right? And let's say you have a kid, and his name is Alex, his name would be Bob John Alex. And Alex would have a kid, and his name would be Chris. Well, Chris's name would be Bob John Alex Chris. And you can see the problem that as you're going down through the generations, the names become bigger and bigger and bigger. To the point where you go get a vuvuvu ave, a boritura ave, a boritura mosas, right? I don't think it was, I don't know if it's trolling or it was legit, but it was quite funny. Someone asked me if there's a power outage at my place. No, Lolizors, there isn't, but there was one that affected the entire town yesterday. It was kind of scary. Jeremy Manning, $2. Look like a Carl to me. Well, the thing with Sargon, from what I understand by talking to him, his grandfather isn't charcoal black. Like he's not from Nigeria. He was a West Indies type of person. So he was considered black by others. But it's not like when you say black person, you don't necessarily think like charcoal. You can be like a shade of dark. And this is what I understand that his grandfather was. He was from West Indies type of person. Kubus7 for €5. He just wants to sound important. Nobles in Europe had names, 25 words long, back in the day. That guy doesn't even touch the surface. That is correct. I know that Europeans used to have them. And you see that's in the Game of Thrones. It's like, I am Daenerys Strongborn, Queen of the Andals, Kenna the First Man. They used to do that back in the day. Iceland and Jervis Bailovas choose the name listed in an official book. I don't know. Like, yeah, in one way that's kind of good, I guess, because the thing with the names is that it's going to affect your kid his entire life. And there are some ridiculous names like Superman. There are actually like people in Romania who call their kids Superman, and it's spelled in Romanian. Or Bruce Lee, or like all these types of names. But then you get like really retarded name like Sock. Like you would name your kid Sock, Șoseta in Romanian, or Bean. And then you even get the vulgar names. And it's like, okay, well, you can clearly say that the parents took the piss when they had that kid and they wanted him to get bullied at school and didn't know how to do it. Yeah, I mean, someone in France named their kid Nutella, naming your kid after a corporation, like Coca-Cola, or naming your kid Blizzard. Like, I guess you can troll the teacher by giving your kid a anime name if that kid is... especially, if the teacher doesn't know how to pronounce it. You imagine going into Germany and name your kid Uchiha Madara, or some shit like that. Uchiha Itachi. But again, like, yeah, name your kid Grom Hellscream. That's a really good thing. Like, imagine naming your kid Hellscream, and you're sending him to like an evangelical school. Like, you're definitely going to get your kid bullied by doing it. Someone named their kid ABCDE, pronounced ABCD. ABCD. Oh. No, I mean, like, this is quite like this is why I don't even name my pets. I find the act of naming things to be quite a chore. I'm not very inventive when it comes to bringing names. I'm not high on creativity. Kubus7 for €2 says people actually call their kids Zelda and stuff. Yeah, I know. I wonder how you get the wife to agree with it. Like, that's the hard point. Like, that guy is in a very good relationship if he can agree with the wife to call his kid Zelda. Think about it, right? Like, imagine going to your wife and say, "Yeah, I want to name my child Grom Hellscream." What type of woman would say yes? Huh? Seriously, what type of woman with big tits would look at you and you're like, you know what? I have a name for this boy. His name is Grom Hellscream, or Conan the Barbarian. And it's like, the woman is like, yeah, totally. I can see that. I look at him and I see a little bit of Grom in him, yeah? To be honest, like, Hellscream is kind of a cool name, I mean, Savannah Whisperwind, I kind of see that if you're married with a hippie. You got like a hippie woman and she's like, oh yeah, Moonlight. What type of names did they have? My God, like the hippie movement had some of the most bizarre names, like Starlight, Twinkle, Moonshine. I guess Sylvanas Whisperwind might work. If you can't imagine a big booby lady saying yes to anime like Hellscream, you've never been to Salem, Mass. Well, you need to understand, in my country, women are very conservative in nature. Okay, so they don't really have access to this type of American culture. And it's a lot more difficult to come up with these compromises. Therefore 20 for $10. Jesus, therefore, how rich are you? It should be therefore 2,000 because you're loaded with cash. Therefore, you literally have an avatar with a coin. Like you are definitely the most rich motherfucker that I know. You and Kubusk. Kubusk, at least I understand why Kubusk has money, because her country, well, his country, is oppressing the rest of Europe, so it makes sense. But you, therefore, no, what did your mom scream to get you to come here? By the way, like there's I think a continuation with that interview where they're asking the name of his mother, and it's also some vuvovove. Kubus 7, like the German. You can insult them, you can call them anything you want, but call them a German and watch them shriek. Brainwash for $5. Here in Brazil, there was this strange case of a gal named Restos Mortais de Catarina. The remains of Catarina. Best zombie name ever. In Romania, if people have those types of ridiculous names, there is a law that allows you to change the name. In fact, you can actually change your name in Romania quite easily. This is, honestly, I can see a lot of people wanting to benefit from the name changer in the future, because think about it. If you're on social media for 10 or 20 years, eventually you will have said or posted something that is politically correct. And when you want to get a job, people are going to look at your social media account. So a lot of people are probably going to change their names in order to get away from the social media stigma. Drake 75 for $10. Girls aren't exempt from being bad at naming because they're girls. No, I'm not saying that girls can't be bad at naming. But I don't think there's going to be a woman that looks at the kid that it's like, Grom Hellscream, like something like that. No, I just... They have probably their other interesting, silly names. Jeremy Mennick for $2. River, Rain, Libert, Summer, Jacquin. The DCTV Titan for $5 Californianas. Some parent named their kid Tallulah does the hula from Hawaii. I personally would name a kid something offensive, like names for Jewish or black people. Can you name your kid Nagger? Or, spelled a little bit differently. Spelled in a way that it gives the power word fired. Can you do that? Is it legal? Probably not, I guess. The authorities would not allow it. But here's the thing. You can go to a Romanian country. You can come to Romania and you can name it here, because here it's legal. And then you can import it back. There is actually a comedy. You can you can go on YouTube. I think it's actually from Comedy Central. Like, this is actually a thing. It's called The Nigger Family. You can type it into YouTube and you will find it. And it's very interesting. I'll give you that. It's from Comedy Central. It's a family of white people that were called the niggers. And then they have a little interesting play on words and on that. And I'm genuinely surprised on why it's still on YouTube, considering this day and age. But I'm happy that it is. Name the child. Oh yeah, like naming the kid Muhammad is also something that I don't get, or naming it Jesus, because you get to read in the newspapers, and you see like Jesus was apprehended after robbing a liquor store, and you're reading that news, and you're like, why Jesus? Why did you do this? Why did you do this, Jesus? And it's the same with Muhammad. It's like the grooming gangs in Rotterdam. There were like 4 or 5 Muhammads involved, and it's like, why Muhammad? Why you do this? You ask the question. So I would never name my kid something like that, like something holy, like Muhammad or Jesus or Saint Peter or, just... Um, Name your kid. Well, like I would like. Why not just assign numbers to kids, like number 1 and number 2? Huh? What would Jesus do? Rob a liquor store. um, Jesus went through his authority hating phase. That is true, and then he decided that you should give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Women name their kids Snape and Draco. Well, to be honest, like Snape and Draco isn't that of a bad name. It's not. Yeah, you name your kid Snape. Careful for Snape not to snap at you. Yeah, Snape has snapped. Right. In a perfect society, you'd give number to your kids, and once they reach 14, they would give themselves a name. Wouldn't that be great? This one is something interesting that I found on the Twitter. So I got this gentleman, I Can't Drive 2007. Prophet husband. And this gentleman is saying on a public space, the Twitter, overheard at my kid's school today. Bully. I fucked your mom, dude. Very Xbox Live type of conversation. Very, part of that particular internet culture. And Junebug, my beautiful boy, oh yeah? Well, that isn't an insult to me because I believe women have autonomy over their own bodies and that sex is empowering. Therefore, if you fuck my mom, I hope she climaxed. So, I'm reading this, right? And a couple of problems arise. First of all, this guy admits he's a cock, I guess, because... Secondly, I will take it for things that never happened for $50. Like, I generally think this comes from Mr. I Can't Drive 2007 Wild Imagination. And third, I think also everyone clapped at the end. Like all the people in the school, they got up, they had tears in their eyes and were like, yes, absolutely, yes. I hear the thing with sexual empowering being used quite often lately in order to justify cheating or infidelity. And here's the problem, like no one is upset when they are complaining about, like, people aren't saying that women shouldn't have sex. Okay, there are certain people who do, but most people aren't talking about that. They're talking about marriage being a sacred vow. Like you're vowing that you're going to have enter a relationship, an exclusive relationship with that person until death does you apart. So you're basically saying that women cannot hold promises because they have control of their sexuality. So women cannot enter marriage and be and show signs of fidelity and show the fact that they're willing to only have one partner for their entire remaining of their lives, just because they have control of their sexuality. So that is the progressive argument. It's like, why, why should women not cheat? Like, women should be free to have sex with whomever they want, even after marriage. And that is just mind-boggling. I keep hearing this progressive argument in many publications, many progressive outlets. I usually don't read them because they're low-hanging fruit, but obviously it does affect the general population when we see people like that gentleman arguing for cheating and arguing for why he would not be upset if a guy from his kid's school would fuck his wife. The DCTV title for $2 was that really out of place for Muhammad, though. It was because the European High Supreme Court said that it would be deeply offensive to suggest otherwise, and as such, we're not going to suggest otherwise. Okay? Kubus7, €5 regarding Muhammad. Why would you ask why when he is reported to groom someone? It's literally what he is honored for in their culture. Again, Kubus7, as a person from German descent, you should be very careful when speaking about such things that are beyond your understanding and beyond my own. Now, if the European Supreme Court is saying that such things are deeply offensive, we need to treat them as such and understand that such conversations do not have place in civilized society. When you stream, I watch. Let's go, champ, says Marijuana Merlin. There are two types of people I despise, betrayers and authoritarians. Joel Cole, V is capitulating to the European Union. To be honest, I have never heard of a single case of someone in my country to be arrested for an opinion. Because in Romania, we still have free speech. And the free speech in Romania, because it's in the constitution, is above European laws. So if you come to Romania, you can say pretty much whatever you want and you won't get arrested. Even if we have certain laws, like for example, we have laws against Holocaust denial, but I checked, no one has been arrested for any of anti-Holocaust opinions. Because I think people here are pretty based, like they have more important things to do than spend police time on and prosecute on people for free expression. That's what Westerners do in first world problems. Here we have still criminal gangs that need to be dealt with, problems of corruption, like more important things that money needs to be allocated to prosecute. The government doesn't really waste time to prosecute people for saying stupid shit online. But with that said, it's not that I'm capitulating to the EU. I'm just saying how ridiculous it is. Like, if they don't want me to say something because they passed the legislation, then I'm not breaking the legislation if I'm mentioning, I'm not going to say this because the government doesn't want me to say it. It's perfectly legal to say this. You will never get arrested in any court of law if you state that, if the European Union Supreme Court says that this is uncivilized, then clearly it is uncivilized. I mean, who am I to disagree? Funny thing though, if you go into the history of my channel, I have never said it before of the court. Simply because I genuinely find it a low-hanging fruit, to be honest. It's like when you're looking at the religion, it's from the prism of that time. It wasn't something like in that day and age. It wasn't something shocking, which is why no one brought it up until recently. It's the same with Jesus for being okay with slavery. Right? Like now, anyone who would be okay with slavery would be abhorred. But back then, when Jesus was saying those things, they were fine. And I think like there are other criticisms that I can go for without going for the low-hanging fruit. But if you want to go for the low-hanging fruit, go ahead. Like just it's not something that I would personally do. The government doesn't want me to talk about the Muslim rape gangs going on in my town. They happen every other night, but like I said, the government won't let me talk about it. Well, you are kind of talking about it when you're mentioning it, don't you? You're also mentioning that there's a suppression going on, aren't you? Mr. Marijuana Merlin. So you saying that you're not talking about it, you kind of are talking about it. It's just that you can't be arrested for talking about it. Because you're not talking about it. See what you did there? We still have slavery. It's called alimony. Jesus fucking Christ there for 20. What are you doing? I see red. Thank you. I appreciate it. But I think it's a little bit too much. Like, I genuinely don't think I deserve this. Just so you know, like, I'm not that entertaining. That's the joke, V, says Marijuana. Well, you know, jokes are a little bit haram nowadays. There's this channel, this YouTube channel, from a gentleman named Monkey. And Monkey had 2 channels shut down. Now, I tried to help him. I got him in touch with a guy that works at YouTube. Keemstar tried to help him. Several other people tried to help him. And apparently, no, like he got his channels shut down for hate speech. And he's not getting his channels back. Now, when he will start a Twitch account, I will do my best to advertise the Twitch account that he started, and hopefully he's going to manage to have a good career there. But it is a little bit worrying. Like I've never seen something like this. He made fun of Elliot Rodgers, as I understand. Like he mocked Elliot Rodgers, and they consider that to be hate speech. Towards whom? Now I haven't seen the videos. I will say like this, but people who have seen it confirm that they were just humor and jokes. What can I say? Maybe he pissed off someone at YouTube, I guess. Maybe he said something that offended someone. Difficult to say, but I have never seen something like that. And he was like a big channel as well. I think he was 200,000 subscribers or 300,000. Mumkey is an alright guy, V. Again, like I don't know his content. I haven't seen anything, but it's just bizarre of what is happening to him, and the fact that Keemstar couldn't manage to get him reinstated. Keemstar managed to also reinstate what's his name? I forgot. Mr. Merker. Right. Keemstar managed to reinstate Mr. Merker, but he didn't manage to reinstate this guy. So I don't know how offensive he was, how problematic he was, but yeah. Again, like I don't know if he's a conservative or anything like that. Another person that got shafted recently, and I'm going to make a video about it, is Mr. ER. E semicolon R. Now, I've recently started watching his channel, and what happened is that PewDiePie suggested that people should subscribe to ER. And he got, I believe, like 2 community strikes already on his channel, which is quite interesting. So the guy, from what I know, he's doing movie and anime reviews, but he made fun of Hitler, or he had like a Hitler speech or some shit like that, and because of that, people are outraged and they're calling PewDiePie anti-Semitic. I'll make a video on it because this is absolutely retarded. It's another attack on YouTube, not on PewDiePie. And my whole point with it is that let's talk about slurs, right? Because this is another thing that the guy is accused of using slurs. And I'm looking at how the culture manifests itself and how the culture evolves. So initially, people are using slurs towards a group of people, right? And at one point, certain people are going to say, well, you need to stop that because the slurs are dehumanizing. You're basically reducing this person to his skin color, and it is wrong to do so. It is stereotypical. It stifles any kind of conversation. It's a conversation ender, right? So you shouldn't use slurs in front of a person of black color, for example, right? Okay, and people agree. Like, the culture itself says, you know what? Like, you can have a conversation with a black person without calling him the N-word. Now, once people agree, then the initial moral busybodies, the language police, takes it a step further. And they say, no, see, you can't use the N-word even when not referring to a black person. So you shouldn't use the N-word in general, because it's a very offensive word, it's very problematic, it's triggering. You shouldn't use the N-word at all. And people are going to go and it's like, oh, okay, you know, like, oh, we can go around without using one word. You know, it's not necessarily to use it, we're not going to use it. And then the culture moves even further. It's like, okay, now it's not that we're not going to use the N-word in front of black people, we're not going to use the N-word at all. Now, when people agree with this, the moral busybodies, the cultural authoritarians, they're going to push it even further. And they're going to say, okay, well, you can't use the N-word, but you also cannot affiliate with other people who use the N-word. And it's like, well, hold on a fucking second now. You know, like, this is where you draw the line. So if I genuinely don't give a shit, like, if I don't use the word, okay, but I don't give a shit if someone else uses it. Like, that's not my problem. That's his problem. Apparently, now I'm guilty as well. And as you can see, like, they're going to constantly expand what is not acceptable to the point where almost everyone is in the category of not acceptable. Where the number of people that are now, you know, the problem are probably the general population. Like, the overwhelming number of people in a country are going to be considered the problem. But by constantly watering down the word and by constantly pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, by getting more and more people involved. And it's the same with racism if you think about it, right? Like racism, in the beginning, a racist person was someone who would be violent towards someone else because of their skin color. So we're talking like, a member of the KKK or a redneck, and people will say, well, don't be like that guy. Look, he's starting violence without being provoked just because he sees a person of a different color. And most people would agree and say like, yeah, okay, that's fucked up. Okay, that's racist. We shouldn't tolerate it, right? You shouldn't judge a person based on his skin color. Judge them based on their character. All right, people agree to this. And then it's like, well, see, racism is also people who, like in the beginning, it's people who act on it, right? Like these are the racists. It's people who have prejudice and they act on it. But then when society agrees with it, they expand it even further. And they say, okay, now racism is people who not necessarily act on it, but also people who have the mindset. So, people who don't like others based on the skin color, they're also a problem. Even though they're not acting on it, they're racist as well. Because you see, by them existing and spreading their ideas, they might create people who act on it. Or one day they might act on it as well. And then people, again, like, expand the definition of racism, and it's going to include even people who just think about racism, even though they're not. And then they expand the definition even further. Now a racist can be a person who doesn't hold prejudice, who doesn't have racist views, but doesn't call out when other people do it. So if I, for example, am not a racist, but because I don't call out people like millennial woes, or I don't call out people from the far right, or I don't do this, or I don't do that, I'm a problem as well. And as you can see, like the number of people that are in the undesirables category is expanding more and more and more until the general population, the big amount of the big chunk of people, the gen pop, as you will, are all racists. And they water down the word until it doesn't mean anything. Same with misogynist, same with any other ist or ism or phobia or whatever. Like they keep watering it down until it's not what it initially meant to be. Kuba7 for 10 euros. I just want to travel to the future 50 years to see how people think about the current times. Will they laugh about it, be embarrassed, or will they cry because they created a terrible future? I do genuinely think that history repeats itself. Like, every single generation has its problems, and the problems do not go away. They're just postponed and then they come back. So if you look at history, what do you see? Well, you see the Cold War era, right? And the Cold War era sparked the hippie movement. And the hippie movement sparked the evangelicals as a backlash to the hippie movement. And the social justice warriors are sparked as a backlash to the evangelicals. So in the future, you're just going to have an opposite culture that is completely opposite to the social justice, but it's going to be to the other extreme. And what's interesting to point out is that if you look at all of these movements, all of them are corporate as fuck at their core. They're very consumerism, they're based, they're very, like, look at the evagelicals. They were pro-corporations, and a lot of corporations would incorporate ideologies from them, and they would, try to virtue signal that they like them and stuff like that. And now, like, if you look at corporations, they're social justice, not because they believe in the ideology. Because you look at the corporation like, I don't know, Starbucks. Okay, now Starbucks operates in Saudi Arabia and it operates in the United States. And if you look at the United States, they shut down all of their businesses in order to train their employees on how not to be racist. And they had racial bias training and all that type of things. They're very social justice. They're very pro, leftist ideology. And if you look in Saudi Arabia, the same corporation who works in Saudi Arabia, they have segregation in their restaurants, like in their, the cafe bars. They got like a wall, and women are allowed to be on one hand, on one side of the establishment, while men are allowed to be on the other. So if you look at the corporation as a whole, which works in Saudi Arabia and works in the United States, how can you say that they're progressive? They're not. They're just playing lip service to progressive ideology. They're just incorporating like the progressive virtue signaling in order to get more clients from the bourgeoisie sphere of the West. And they're not the only ones. Like another example would be PayPal. PayPal, which apparently doesn't like that Milo Yiannopoulos, I believe, is a racist and he's anti-LGBT or whatever the fuck they want. He's anti-Semitic, I guess, or whatever they advocate. They do business with Islamic nations, where they're not very tolerant towards gay people. You know, they're not very tolerant towards Jewish people. So again, like you look at it, and it doesn't make sense if you think that, oh yes, this company is actually progressive, this company is actually leftist. No, I don't think they are. I think they want money, and they're going to go with what the mainstream media in that country considers to be popular. What the mainstream media advocates that is the approved culture. The mainstream media, in my opinion, and I might be wrong on this, it's just a personal observation, has took the role of the church. The church used to be the institution that would dictate morality in a society. They would be the ones that say, okay, this is acceptable, this isn't. Harry Potter is wrong, Pokemon is wrong, you need to go pray and worship Jesus. And it was the church that would establish morality. But now that the world is becoming more and more atheistic, the church is being replaced by the mainstream media. And the mainstream media is now dictating morality to society. It's not okay to manspread. It's not okay to do cultural appropriation on Halloween. It's not okay to do this and that, right? So people have to constantly read the mainstream media, to constantly read the news, to find out what's appropriate and what isn't. For example, manspreading is not a problem anymore. I haven't heard about it since ages, right? So you can manspread all you want now. But 3 years ago, there were 2 black gentlemen in New York City that got arrested for manspreading on the train. Just Google it. Like they actually managed to make that a crime into New York, right? So people got arrested because they manspread. And how is this not exactly what the church used to do? Like people would get ostracized if they weren't good Christians. The DCTV Titan for $5. Is it fair to say that the YouTube is currently going down the path of David Condon, furiously flagellating themselves with how virtuous they are? I'll make a video talking about why YouTube Rewind is the most unpopular video in history. And my opinion, like the way I can summarize it, is that YouTube has moved completely away from creators. They don't care about pleasing the people on the platform anymore, and they only care about pleasing the advertisers. And in order to please the advertisers, they need to please the mainstream media. So they need to create a sanitized website with sanitized content that the mainstream media finds acceptable, so that the mainstream media doesn't run hit pieces against YouTube and scare away the advertisers. So this is why they don't like PewDiePie. Right? They view PewDiePie as a liability. They view PewDiePie as a risk. They would prefer if T-Series, if a corporation, would be the number one person on the platform. Because corporations like to work with other corporations. Corporations hate to work with the average Joe. They prefer to work at other corporations because they speak the same language. They also have people that are into PR and they avoid risks. So you will never find like T-Series getting YouTube into the trouble that PewDiePie does. So this is why they would prefer if PewDiePie wouldn't be number one and they would have a corporation instead of PewDiePie. It doesn't matter what corporation, it could be anyone. If I start a corporation tomorrow, they would prefer that rather than have PewDiePie. So this is what I'm seeing. This is why they didn't invite PewDiePie in the new YouTube Rewind video. This is why they didn't... this is why the new video is incredibly sanitized and they didn't talk about like the Logan Paul controversy that happened in 2018. Corporations are people too, V. Stop discriminating. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing with corporations. Of course, they're people, obviously, but they have this corporate culture, this corporate mentality. It's very fake. Okay, it's a bunch of people acting in a very fake manner, in a manner that doesn't come from the heart, in a manner that they just read a script every time they talk with the public. Individuals don't do that, right? Like individuals are more adaptable. They're more likely to use the brain and talk from the heart. Corporations don't allow people to speak for themselves. You need to have like the corporate speech. Like this is what corporate culture is. It's collectivism at the end of the day. It's the and by collectivism, a lot of people don't understand it. It's the hive ant mentality. Like you need to do what the queen bee tells you to do. You need to do what the queen ant tells you to do. You're not allowed to think for yourself. You're a drone. You're just a cog in a machine. You're the person that follows orders, the little foot soldiers, and nothing you do comes from your personal input. You just need to look at the higher up and do what the higher up tells you. That's what collectivism really means. Now, it's not a bad thing, by the way. Like, collectivism is a way of operating a group of people, right? Like, everyone becomes a drone and you just follow orders. It's how the military operates. It's how corporations operate. It's how some NGOs operate. But I wouldn't want the country to be operated like the military, where every aspect of your life gets dictated to you from top down. I wouldn't like that. Ethan Long for $5. Hello V, what's your movie going experience like in your country? It's pretty okay. I mean, it's not the best, but it's not the worst either. Movies are quite cheap. The popcorn is quite expensive. A lot of people try to sneak in popcorn and drinks inside the cinema. I keep telling them not to do it because that's how the cinema makes money. Like, they don't make money with the actual movie. But, you know, like, you get a lot of ladies hiding Pepsi in their purses and shit. The theaters are okay. I mean, they're not the best theaters in the world, but they're not the worst either. So, yeah, that's the movie experience. ER had a Hitler speech at the end of his Steven Universe review. The gems got to him, unfortunately. Oh, my God. Yeah, I heard that he pissed off the Steven Universe community. What was with the Hitler speech? Like, did they actually make the point from Steven Universe? Because a lot of people don't know that there are parts of Hitler's ideology, not the ideology in itself, right? Not the whole of it, but parts of it that are exactly in line with the social justice agenda. For example, his stances on environmentalism. Like, Hitler genuinely wanted to protect the environment. And the progressives want to do that the same. His love for animals. Another example. His pan-European project that the European Union is doing. Hitler tried to do it through military action. Well, now it's 2018. Wars are expensive and costly. So they're trying to do it through political influence and economic action. T-Ren says YouTube released a playlist with creators responding to Rewind 2018. Creators featured and even PewDiePie response. I was shocked. Did they? Well, I guess I need to make my video and respond to it. Pita has taken notice of the gaslighting. Okay, right. So anyway, Hitler was pro-vegan. And it's funny. No, like, this is what I'm... the idea of Hitler trying to take away guns from people. Like, anyone who thinks that if Hitler would have won World War II, he wouldn't have taken guns from Germans is insane. A lot of leftist... And I'm talking about progressive policies that we see in the US today, Hitler also had. And it's funny that the progressives want to pretend that that's not the case. And again, like, the right-wingers, the conservatives in the United States, have less in common, in my opinion, with Hitler than the progressives have with Nazi Germany. It's just, I'm willing to take it on a piece of paper. Like, if anyone wants me to do the challenge, I will take it on a piece of paper. We can go down through history and see the policies of Mr. Adolf and see the policies of Mrs. Hillary Clinton, and we can see how many of them align. And if anyone wants to do the challenge, like, get Donald Trump and Mr. Adolf, and let's see how many policies Donald Trump and Adolf had together. I understand they had one, and the Young Turks were livid about it. The fact that Germany wanted strong borders, and Trump wants strong borders, and therefore Trump and Adolf have an equal sign between them, and the United States is going to become the Third Reich. I heard that. That is an opinion that's heavily supported by the progressives. And what can I say? I'm like, whoa, you got me there. No, but when we talk about environmentalism, for example, like protection of the environment, it was quite a new concept at the time, and it was quite revolutionary, and Adolf came with it, right? And now you see progressives in the United States be very friendly for the environment, and conservatives not so much. So I think the parallel is worth talking about. Communism, class struggle, Nazism, race struggle. Well, this is something that I never understood. I think I saw Mr. Hassan from the Young Turks. Lovely gentleman, right? He was saying that if people want to be radicals, instead of looking to the far right, they should become communists or something like that. And I'm thinking, from my position, I don't see the difference. Like, the reason people don't like Nazism is because it committed a genocide based on race, right? Like, it turned the population against people who were born in a certain race. And you can't choose the race you're born. So even people who were innocent, because they were born by the wrong parents, they were being persecuted. And that's horrible. I agree. But when you look at communism, it's hatred based on class. So people who were born in the wrong class by the wrong parents, they were also persecuted. So how on earth can you not apply the same principle in both sides? Unless you don't care about genocide, unless you don't care about people dying, unless you don't care about hatred, and you're just appealing to the majority of people who do care about that, and you're just trying to vilify another ideology because it's opposing to you. It's like, no, both ideologies are fucked up, okay? Between Hitler and Stalin, there is no choice. I like to choose Churchill or the United States with freedom and the ego. I like the United States with the ego. That is so, like, out of all the animals, you could have chosen the buffalo, you could have chosen, what else does the United States have? The horse? I mean, horses, back then, they were, a majestic creature, very expensive, right? Americans could have chose any one of, they chose the eagle. That is so fucking cool, because they're above it all, No, the moose is something from Canada, I think. Germany had the eagle. Well, tough shit, now America has it. It's theirs now. And I think the American eagle is actually more cool than the German eagle, if you think about it, yeah, Canada should have chosen the polar bear. That is actually one scary animal. It's one of the animals that killed the most humans out of any other animal in that region. Ben Franklin wanted the turkey originally. It's so good that Ben Franklin doesn't get his way. It's like the turkey. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine going with the standard? Like you're some military corps and you get like the turkey standard. That is like what? The American bald eagle. Like, just think about it. That bird has so much testosterone in it that it became bald. Out of all of the creatures in the animal kingdom, you managed to find the one with the most testosterone, the bald eagle. No, Romania actually has. It's not a buffalo. It's a bull, Romanian bull. Kuba 7. The eagle was used by almost every European state. Well, tough shit. It's not used anymore. It's used by the Americans because they took what's best. The American bald eagle is actually pretty shitty. Yeah. Maybe they should like now put $1 on the flag as well, on the American flag, $1. Just to give a fuck you. I love the fact that you still have Islamic nations that have a sword. Which Islamic nation has a sword on its flag? It's like, dude, you do realize that we have guns. Like, can you at least replace it with an AK-47 to make it more accurate? Instead, like, imagine this, you have like the squiggly letters and then you have like the AK-47. That would be actually more scary than having squiggly letters and a sword. It's like, it's a sword, okay. Ben Franklin wanting the turkey is only a myth. Kubus7 for 10 euros. I find it highly unfair to compare nations with island nations. The danger and goals are very different. There cannot be the same governments and policies out of necessity. I actually agree. I think this is why Germans are so collectivist, because they were surrounded by other powerful nations. And they had to run their nation like a military, like a cog and a machine in order to survive. But then again, you look at the Japanese and you don't understand why they did it. Yeah. But I do agree, like, it's a lot safer to live in Britain, and you can worry about liberty and, more rights, and expand on the happiness of the people living in that country, than if you're a country like Germany, which is constantly under pressure from other powers. And then you have to have more of a warlike mentality. So no, I do agree, like, geography definitely affects the way the culture over a long time of history is going to take roots. I prefer the eagle of nobility than the eagle of spreading democracy with bombs throughout the world. Well, like, oh, this is so cute. This is so, like, you need, the thing is, the eagle of democracy has the resources to do that. The eagle of nobility, I will take it if it's a country that can actually do it but chooses not to. That's more interesting. Because any country can have the eagle of nobility. Like, take the weakest nation, I don't know, Liechtenstein. Liechtenstein, a nation in Europe that I would be shocked if I go to the EU and I ask a random parliamentary there, like, can you point me where Liechtenstein is on the map? Like, it's so fucking small, they probably don't know where it is. Liechtenstein will never have the eagle of democracy. Like, they cannot afford to have the eagle of democracy. So the only time I will look at you and say, oh, the eagle of democracy and the eagle of nobility is when it's a country the size of the United States, with the economy and the military of the United States, and chooses not to use the eagle of democracy. And then I'll be like, okay, no, you're right. But throughout history, every single time we have a nation that's powerful is going to exercise that strength. Okay, it's human nature. I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. The US eagle chooses not to. The Middle East. Okay, if you want to go into that conversation, look how Russia treated the Middle East versus how the United States treats the people in the Middle East. If I was a person in the Middle East, I would rather have the eagle of democracy than the bear. Like, if you get the bear, that's really bad. Like, the way the bear used to operate is if some of their soldiers got killed by some guerrilla fighters, they would glass entire villages. They would carpet bomb that place like there's no tomorrow. And after a while, people stopped attacking their soldiers. Meanwhile, the Americans are like, well, someone attacked our soldiers. Who is it? Oh, we don't know. Some men, they went into the mountains. Like, okay, fine. And the thing is, like, I think that is restraint. I think that is definitely a way of not exercising their force, which is probably what you want to talk about. You have a way too positive view on the United States. They force their will onto the world and unseen consequences. I named 2 examples in 5 minutes already. No, you're right, but here's the thing. Do you think China would be better than the United States? Do you think Saudi Arabia or Russia would be better than the United States? Because you can't compare it with an utopia. You can't look at how you would like things to be, and you compare it with America, and you say, America is not like the promised land. No, you have to compare it with its contenders. You have to compare it with other countries that would gain hegemony and see how those countries would behave compared to how America behaves. Russia lost in the Middle East and left. That's opened it up to the US. Did they choose to leave it alone? Nope, checkmate. Anyway, I don't want to argue with you when you pay me money because I feel bad. I would just become controversial in order to get more money. So, Kubu7, why Japanese did it? Because of the USA who forced them out of isolationism. They arrived at Japanese borders and gave them the ultimatum: open up or be conquered. They're called the Black Ships. Apparently, even now, artists in Japan are still drawing the black ships. They view it as a great stain and horror upon their history. Logan Gardner, Mozambique has an AK on their flag. I didn't know that. I will check it out. Mozambique seems based. Let's see if I got any donations on Streamlabs, and then I will end the stream. Someone pointed out, it's like, oh V, you got only 357 people watching. Why on earth would I want more? Why on earth do I want to be on the radar? Like, I am so happy if I get like 300 to 400 people watching. Like, that is the number that I aim for. If I ever get 1,000 people watching, I'm going to scream like a little girl because I'll be scared. You don't want to make, like, the worst thing that you can do if you're talking about political commentary and stuff, if you have political opinions, actually, the worst thing that you can do is to be trending on YouTube. Like, I never want to be trending on YouTube in a stream, ever. If I was into beauty blogging or ASMR, then yeah, I would want to be the best. Even like video games, I would still be like, ugh. Okay, so I didn't get any donations on Streamlabs. I have to check it all the time because sometimes people donate and I feel bad. But without that, thank you for listening to me, and I genuinely appreciate your contributions. Now, I will work on the video on my main channel, which is going to be about President Macron. Probably going to be up in 1 hour or two, or I don't know, maybe I'll upload it tomorrow. We'll see. Yeah, Goblin Slayer, holy shit. I don't even know what to review about it anymore. It was a shopping session. They went and they purchased shit. I don't even know what exactly I should talk about. But, yeah, I'll try to review it if I have time. So anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you all